Beloved UK bakery GREGGS is taking unprecedented steps to combat a surge in shoplifting that's sweeping across its stores nationwide. Food and drinks that were once self-serve are now being placed behind the counter, accessible only through staff. The trial is currently underway in London locations, including Whitechapel and Peckham, areas that have been flagged by GREGGS as experiencing high levels of theft and antisocial behaviour. One employee at the Whitechapel store told the Sun newspaper, "The stealing before was so bad, I couldn't put a number on how many thieves came in every day." Some stores have even installed bank-style security screens at counters and hired full-time security personnel to address the issue. A spokesperson for the bakery said, "This is one of a number of initiatives that we are trialling across a handful of shops which are exposed to high levels of antisocial behaviour. Safety of our colleagues and customers remains our number one priority." The change at GREGGS comes amid a nationwide rise in shoplifting. Figures from the Office for National Statistics show over 516,000 shoplifting offences recorded in 2024. That's a 20% increase from the previous year. However, retailers claim the actual number is much higher. The British Retail Consortium reported over 20 million shoplifting incidents across the sector in 2024, with many more going unreported. Across the country, retailers are grappling with increasingly organised criminal tactics. Gangs have been caught using Bluetooth headsets to communicate inside stores, set off alarms, and distract staff in coordinated thefts with almost military-like precision. Speaking to the BBC, the chair of the BRC and JD Sports, Andy Higginson, said, "There is an element of society that is starting to take stealing from stores as a way of life, and that needs to be stopped. People are not stealing the food to eat, they're stealing very high-value items that can be traded and sold." Some of the sharp rise in shoplifting incidents since the COVID pandemic has been attributed to higher household bills and the price of food. Security firm bosses say they are noticing a shift in the demographic of thieves in shops and supermarkets, with an uptick in struggling pensioners now breaking the law. The Director of Service for Retail at Kingdom Security, John Nussbaum, has said, "We've seen a massive increase in pensioners shoplifting, putting a jar of coffee in their bag and one in the trolley, that sort of thing. For us, over the last 12 months, we've got this different level of crime now. We're experiencing something different. Pensioners, people who don't normally shoplift." He also noted an increase in mothers stealing with their children.
Have you ever seen a headline so biased you couldn't help but laugh? Well, here's how you can cut through the spin and get a clearer picture of what's actually happening out there. We've all seen those news stories. Everything's a catastrophe. Facts are feelings, and even the weather becomes political. If you're tired of wading through sensational headlines and narratives leaning so far left they're practically falling over, consider our partner Ground News. Ground News isn't just another news source, it's a tool that lets you easily spot the spin. Take, for example, the Trump tariffs pause. This story had over 600 articles, 29% on the left, 54% centre, and 17% on the right. Left-leaning coverage, like Bloomberg UK, framed the EU's tariff actions as a measured retaliation to Trump's policies, emphasising the need for predictable trade conditions and using terms like onslaught to describe Trump's approach. Right-leaning outlets, such as the Daily Express, conversely characterised the EU as bottling under pressure and engaging in revenge that the EU merely matched, and highlighting China's high tariffs on US goods. With Ground News, you can quickly spot when a story is disproportionately covered from one side. They're handy bias ratings, which show purported news bias, and blind spot feed, a feed that you can see stories disproportionately covered by one side, make it easy to see what's being exaggerated, underreported, or simply misunderstood. What really convinced us to partner with Ground News is their commitment to transparency and clear information. In a time when algorithms feed us content designed only to hold our attention, not necessarily inform us, Ground News is genuinely refreshing. It's not about being unbiased, it's about clarity and balance. If you want to cut through sensationalism, visit ground.news/GBN or scan this QR code now to subscribe. You'll receive 40% off the Vantage plan, giving you unlimited ad-free access to news coverage worldwide.
Is nothing sacred anymore, even sandwiches and bottles of Coke and water? I struggle to think of anything more painful, representing an illustration of the decline of this country, than GREGGS the bakery removing the fridges from some of their shops. Yes, I saw it for myself last year when I was getting a coffee one morning from GREGGS. A man walked in with a holdall, massive bag, cleared out the shelves and walked out with loads of breakfast items. This was my picture from last year. It went viral on Twitter when I posted about it. The poor staff stood there and laughed as they told me they were completely unable to do anything about it, knowing full well that calling the police would be an absolute waste of time. Isn't this just the inevitable consequence of a criminal class who know very well there's no consequences for their actions? To discuss this, I'm joined by former Chief Superintendent Kevin Hurley. Kevin, good evening. What do you make of this decision from GREGGS today? They're putting sandwiches, sausage rolls, drinks behind locked counters so people can't nick them.
Well, it's a very sensible move. They're a commercial business. They can't afford to lose any of their profits, and hence they need to protect it. You made the point, though, at the very beginning of this statement, which was that criminals know there's absolutely no consequences for committing these offences. And that, in a nutshell, is the problem. It's far worse than a bit of nicking from GREGGS of sandwiches and pies. So, for example, emergency service workers' assaults on them, which includes police officers and ambulance drivers, a special new offence brought in recently. There's now a backlog of nearly 4,000 of these awaiting trial, and it's thought it will take many years for those cases to go to the Crown Court. So if there is in fact no immediate justice for someone who assaults or attacks a police officer, firefighter or ambulance paramedic on duty, we are almost lost. Combine that with the fact that there are now moves to almost to ban the use of prison sentences of less than 12 months. You can see that there's actually no consequences. When we look at who's to blame, it would be quite unfair to blame the Labour government. We've had 14 years of the Conservatives effectively emasculating the police, slashing the Crown Prosecution Service, slashing the court service, underfunding the police, underfunding probation services, underfunding drug rehabilitation, and underfunding youth diversion. And of course, no account has been taken for the increasing demand on all of those services by the fact we've got many millions of new people living in this country whose values and standards often mirror those to be found in the third world rather than the more traditional ones on which our prison, police and court estate was once built. The bottom line is the Conservatives have put us in this position, and whilst I am not a Labour supporter, it would be wrong to blame the Labour Party for what they've inherited. No,
good point, but they are in power now and they can do something about it. And I would say the police as well, I would argue they have partly emasculated themselves over recent years, taking the knee for Black Lives Matter, going to Bryson Pride and doing the YMCA in rainbow-coloured cars, hiring DEI staff on 60, 70 grand a year and all sorts of absolute nonsense. I mean, the Tory government wasn't making them do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's all silly, stupid stuff. But
I think it's quite important. It is stupid, but I think it's indicative of the way they hold themselves.
No, what's far more important is the fact that the police service strength is still 20,000 employees below what it was when the Tory government came in. Yeah. 3/4 of all our police stations in the country have been cut. Most of the police training establishments in the country have been cut. There's been a real slashing of funding allocated to training police leaders, which is what the problem is you've just mentioned, as there is a real slashing of money allocated to training cops.
All right.
On top of, in fact, to be fair,
we've got to wrap up, Kevin.
The prisons are full, and it wasn't the RSPCA who put them there. It was, in fact, the police.
Yeah, got it. Kevin Hurley, thank you for your company. Really appreciate it. Sorry to squeeze you for time. Your former Chief Superintendent. Have a good rest of your week.